snitch, I don't work for the DEA, none of that. They use my loyalty against me. And that's how I feel is happening right here. With this thing with me and Tip, you know what I'm saying?
Welcome back to BuzzBuster. I'm glad you're here. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss daily videos. The name Alphamega used to shake the streets like a battle cry. Standing at 6'4", built like he came straight out of a war zone, his body told stories no song ever could. He wasn't just another rapper chasing fame. He was the enforcer, the muscle, the hype man riding shotgun with one of hip-hop's biggest legends. He was this close to carving out his own lane, ready to stamp his name into hip-hop history. But right when it looked like everything was about to blow up, it all came crashing down. One day, he was family with Grand Hustle, living the dream, and the next day,
Yeah, don't give a goddamn what nobody say. They tell you something different, they lying.
Associated with that. Right. That ain't in my best interest. Right. Well, if that's the take on it, I have no choice but to separate myself, just due to what's best for me and mine.
Gone. Then came the whispers. Papers started surfacing, and before anyone could even blink, he got labeled a snitch. Just like that, everything he built crumbled overnight. His rise wiped out. His respect vanished. Let's spin it back for a second, because Cedric Zellis wasn't just from Atlanta. He was Techwood born and bred. Techwood had roots deep in history. It was built in the 1930s as America's first public housing project. But by the time Zellis showed up on June 2, 1972, that proud legacy had turned into pure struggle. What once stood as a symbol of community had become a war zone. Techwood wasn't just tough, it was survival, plain and simple. Zellis once described it best: a world of predator and prey, a city trapped inside another city. Cops, known as the Red Dogs, ran those blocks like they were soldiers in enemy territory, kicking in doors and flexing power every chance they got. Violence didn't just pass through his life, it defined it. Before he could even write his name, at just 3 years old, Zellis saw horror no child should witness.
I don't work for no DEA.
Have you ever?
I never worked for the DEA.
Okay.
I had a gun charge. That's an ATF charge.
Okay.
I don't work for the DEA. I dibbled and dabbed and selling drugs when I was young.
His father beat his mother so badly she lost teeth. That image never left him. That kind of pain doesn't fade. It molds a man into something different, something hardened by hurt. By 9, he was already hustling the streets. It started innocent, grabbing boxes of Twinkies and flipping them for pocket cash. But in the projects, no hustle stays small for long. You either grow or you get crushed. There's no middle ground. Then the late 80s hit, and crack tore through Atlanta like a hurricane. By 1988, at just 16, Zellis was deep in the game. Folks called him Techwood Said, and his name carried weight. He bragged once that he had $26,000 stashed up. That was serious money for a teen. He spent it fast too, spoiling his girl, living flashy, like the world couldn't touch him. But that kind of money always draws trouble. Respect in those streets wasn't asked for, it was taken. And when someone crossed him, Zellis made sure they paid. His rep spread way beyond Techwood. Stories about his moves turned into street legend. 2 incidents from that time still echo through Atlanta's history. And the first one, it involved a man everyone on the block called Big Bird. It all went down one wild Atlanta night no one would ever forget, after some bad blood that never cooled off.
He used to beat my mom. Like he beat my mom. He stomped my mama. He stomped my mama teeth out. That trauma like that really f***ed me up. I was like, I got f***ed up at a young age.
Zellis spotted Big Bird sitting in his shiny 5.0 Mustang, and that was it. Zellis didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. He charged, 2 pistols in hand, a .38 and another piece. He let shots fly through the pouring rain. But the ground was slick, and he slipped face first into the mud. Big Bird ducked behind the hood and fired back with a .45, each shot echoing through the block like thunder. Chaos erupted. Neighbors hit the floor, lights flickered, and the air smelled like gunpowder and rain. Zealous pulled himself up, soaked and furious, regrouped, and stormed off to grab another gun from his cousin Lonzo. The streets of Techwood had just witnessed another night of madness, and his legend was just getting started. He came back ready for war, charging after Big Bird into an apartment complex like it was a battlefield, bullets echoing, doors slamming, people screaming. It was chaos, pure and loud. That moment showed everyone exactly who Zealous was, a man with no fear of death. He wasn't backing down for nobody. But the second incident, that one cut way deeper. It wasn't about turf or money, it was personal. An OG from the neighborhood had crossed a serious line, disrespecting Zealous' girl, Keisha, during a heated argument over drugs. In his world, that kind of disrespect didn't get discussed, it got dealt with. Letting it slide would have made his name meaningless in the streets. So Zealous went looking for him, and when he found him, it was all bad. He opened fire, 5 shots, 2 to the legs, 1 in the backside, 1 in the groin, and another just to make his point clear. Then, according to Zealous himself, he walked right up, pressed the gun to the man's head, and pulled the trigger 3 times. But destiny had other plans. The gun jammed. Fate, or maybe straight up luck, kept that man alive that night. Later that same night, back at his mama's house, Zealous pointed that same gun to the sky and fired, and this time it worked perfectly. That's when the truth hit him like a punch to the gut. He really meant to end a man's life over street pride. That realization stuck with him heavy. The early 90s became a vicious loop for him. Streets, jail, back to the streets again. He got locked up for dealing coke, did his time, came home, and jumped right back into the grind.
Can't let this dude disrespect my girl, and you disrespect my name. You doing it loud in front of everybody. I go down there, and I pop him, and I pop him 5 times. You know, I popped him in both his legs, put the gun to his head, pulled the trigger 3 times, and then.
But 1995 flipped his whole world upside down. He got busted selling firearms to an undercover federal agent, and that move changed everything.
By then, Zealous was already a convicted felon, carrying a robbery charge from before. But this time, it wasn't state time, it was federal, and that hit different. There's no early release, no cutting corners. When you get fed time, you're doing at least 85% of it, no questions asked. The sentence came down hard. 110 months, nearly 9 years. At just 23 years old, Zealous was staring down the loss of his entire youth. When they shipped him off to federal prison, it hit different. He knew he couldn't just coast through this stretch, he needed a real way out. And that's when the game shifted again. According to official court records from the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, in October 1995, Zealous made his move. He agreed to cooperate, sat down with federal agents, got debriefed, and started giving up info about big criminal activity in Atlanta. Their main target? A man named Ali Bakar, a heavyweight player in the city's drug world. And from that moment on, Zealous' story took a turn nobody in the street saw coming. This wasn't some small-time setup. The feds were hunting for a real insider. They needed someone who had walked that walk, someone the streets actually respected, and Zealous checked every box. He wasn't just another name. They needed a man who could connect the dots from the inside, and he was perfect for it. He didn't just whisper from the shadows either. He met face-to-face with a DEA agent and a federal prosecutor using his real name, Cedric Zealous. Later, the world would come to know that same man by another name, Alphamega. The same face that once ruled the blocks was now standing in a courtroom testifying for the government in United States versus Ali Bakar. When he took the stand, the courtroom froze. His words carried weight. His testimony helped lock in a conviction that hit Atlanta's underworld like a bomb. Bakar was found guilty of conspiracy to distribute narcotics, and Zealous' statements were one of the biggest pieces of evidence in the entire case. In the federal system, the only ticket to shave off real time is what they call substantial assistance.
Alpha wasn't always Alpha. Alpha was Sid first. You know what I mean? 2 different people.
If you ain't know him right now, he probably robbed y'all for this camera shit and all that. Like, for real, I'm dead ass serious.
Yeah, man, I'm shot, nigga.
And Zealous earned it. By July 1997, Judge J. Owen Forster signed off on a sentence reduction, knocking his time down from 110 months to 92. 18 months of his life traded for cooperation, written and sealed forever in official court records. He ended up doing most of his stretch at USP Lompoc in California, far from the chaos of Atlanta, far from the corners of Techwood. Techwood said slowly faded away, and in its place, something new started to take shape. Locked away with nothing but time and thoughts, Zealous started writing, and writing like a man possessed. Notebooks filled with rhymes, stories, and raw emotion. Songs, scripts, whole ideas for films, he poured it all out, thousands of pages deep. He told himself the old life was buried for good, and what was coming next would be legendary. When he finally walked out of that federal gate in February 2002, the world was unrecognizable. The internet had exploded, and hip-hop had gone full shine mode. Iced out chains, flashy rides, and big money everywhere. The South wasn't begging for respect anymore. It owned the game. Zealous had missed the wave, but he hadn't wasted those years behind bars. He called prison his gladiator school, a place where he rebuilt himself from the ground up. He didn't just bulk up his body, he sharpened his mind too. By his own count, he came home with over 1,700 songs, 3 screenplays, and even a non-fiction book already mapped out in his head. Prison had taken his freedom, but it had also handed him something rare: focus. He was convinced he was ready to flip the script completely, to live clean and start fresh, even if the world outside had changed without him. Most people think Alphamega's story picked up right where he linked with T.I. back in Atlanta, but that's not how it really went down. There's a missing chapter most fans never heard about. When Zealous got out, he didn't head straight back to Bankhead. He took a different route altogether. His comeback didn't start in Georgia. It started in Philadelphia, the city that would set the stage for everything that came next. His first real cosign didn't come from the King of the South. It came straight from the Broad Street bully himself.
26,000, man. Jewelry, the cars. The girl I was messing with, Keisha, I had got her maximum, 87 maximum.
Beanie Sigel. Picture this: Alphamega sitting right in Beanie Sigel's mother's living room in Philly, surrounded by the heart of the Rockefeller era. Back then, Beanie's word carried serious weight. He wasn't polished for the cameras or playing industry games. Beanie was raw, unfiltered, and could spot a fraud before they even spoke. Right there in that living room, Zealous, now Alphamega, spit his truth. No gimmicks, no fancy talk, just pure fire. Beanie sat back, listening to every line, while his mom and sister watched in silence. You could feel the hunger in the room, the pain, the redemption, the story of a man who had seen hell and was determined to make it mean something. Beanie caught that energy immediately. He respected the grind, the scars, and the authenticity. Here was a 6'4" ex-con who wasn't chasing fame or clout. He was chasing purpose. According to Alphamega, Beanie didn't hesitate. He saw something real in him and offered a deal on the spot.
But what happened next? That's the twist that still has people talking. Alphamega looked Beanie dead in the eye and said, "I'm a boss like you. I just wanted you to hear me." No begging, no ego, just confidence. He turned down the offer, straight up. He wasn't out there looking for a shortcut or a cosign to save him. He wanted respect, not rescue. And to make it even clearer, he pulled out money and paid Beanie for his time. No favors, no handouts. That one move spoke louder than any verse he could have dropped. That moment told the world everything it needed to know. Alphamega wasn't another hungry rapper fresh out of prison begging for a shot. He was different, calculated, grounded, and moving with intent. That Philly encounter became his first real stamp of approval. And when Beanie Sigel co-signed you back then, the streets listened. From that day forward, Alphamega's name started buzzing again. And this time, it wasn't just about his past, it was about the kind of man he was becoming. By 2005, Alphamega was back in Atlanta, and the city was on fire. Hip-hop had shifted in a major way, and sitting high on the throne was none other than T.I., a man who had gone from a street-certified hustler to a global superstar. But with that kind of rise came serious pressure. As T.I.'s fame exploded,
One time I got locked up. When I called the Fed gun charge. I didn't come back home in 2002. I did 7 years, 4 days, 5 hours, 32 minutes, and 16 seconds, dog.
The world was watching his every move. He couldn't afford to move like he used to. The wild, unpredictable energy that once made him a legend now had to be controlled, polished, and protected. He needed someone who could keep that street presence alive while he handled the business, the cameras, and the brand. That's where Alphamega came in, right on time. Their connection wasn't random either. Alphamega had history with T.I.'s family. He knew T.I.'s father, a man the streets called Daddy, and he also knew his uncle. Those deep roots built real trust. This wasn't about contracts or paperwork, it was about respect, sealed with a handshake and backed by street code. T.I. was the king, and Alphamega became the muscle behind the crown. For the next few years, he played that role like he was born for it. He was the silent force standing behind Grand Hustle's artists, the one who didn't need to talk to be understood. His presence alone spoke volumes. Inside an industry built on image, he brought something most rappers only pretended to have: real street gravity. When Alphamega walked into a room, you could feel the shift. The air got heavier, people straightened up. There was fear, respect, and just enough mystery to make everyone think twice before speaking reckless. He wasn't chasing the spotlight, he was the spotlight, even in silence. His job wasn't to perform, it was to protect, to represent, and to make sure no one ever tested Grand Hustle's name, and he did it flawlessly. That unstoppable energy hit its absolute peak in 2007 with the release of Hurt, a record featuring Alphamega, T.I., and Busta Rhymes. The track was pure aggression on wax, no sugarcoating, no filters.
I offered my first record deal 2 weeks out of prison. Beanie Siegel offered me my first record deal in his mother's living room.
It was raw talk about home invasions, revenge, and burying enemies that crossed the line. When T.I. dropped that iconic line, "You know what it is when I got Alpha with me," that wasn't just a lyric, that was a warning, a statement, a declaration that Grand Hustle wasn't playing games. For a moment, Alphamega wasn't just the man behind the muscle, he was the embodiment of the street power that gave T.I.'s empire its edge. The Hurt music video shoot didn't feel like a set, it felt like an Atlanta street rally. This wasn't a bunch of paid extras pretending to be tough. Nah, this was real energy. The crowd was full of legit names, ex-NFL players, known hustlers, and neighborhood legends from Alabama, Texas, and way beyond. Everybody showed up just to stand behind Alphamega. The air that day, electric. You could feel the tension buzzing through the crowd like live wires. It was raw, authentic, and way too real for TV. But here's the part that made everything hit different, the contradiction. At that exact moment, I was leading a Stop Snitching campaign. He was preaching loyalty, silence, and staying true to the street code. Grand Hustle's entire brand was built around that message. Real ones only, no talking, no folding. And right there, standing in the middle of all that street loyalty and hardcore image, was Alphamega, a man who years earlier had quietly shaved time off his federal sentence by testifying in a major case. The irony? It was wild. The whole industry had bought into the Grand Hustle image completely. No one had any idea about the paperwork buried deep in those federal archives. But before that truth came to light, Alphamega's enforcer era was at its absolute peak. To understand just how high it got, you gotta rewind to November 24th, 2008, the infamous Dirty Awards in Atlanta. By then, tension between Grand Hustle and Shawty Lowe's D4L crew had been heating up for months. This wasn't some rap beef cooked up for publicity, it was territorial. Bankhead was real soil. T.I. claimed it, but Shawty Lowe lifted. That night, the hostility was thick as you could taste.
When Shawty Lowe hit the stage to perform They Know, Grand Hustle took it as a straight shot at T.I. And for someone like Alphamega, that wasn't just disrespect, it was war. According to police reports and eyewitnesses, it took just 1 second for everything to blow up. In the middle of the performance, Grand Hustle's section erupted. Alphamega, standing in the crowd, snapped.
I turned him down. I told him, no disrespect, I'm a boss like you. I just want to make sure you feel me. I'm going to pay you $5,000 for wasting your time. Boom. And I did it like, man, you liked it, you know what I'm saying? So my point's been proven. My point got...
He grabbed a chair and hurled it toward the stage with full force, and that single move was all it took to set the whole building on fire. Fists started flying, bottles shattered, and the chaos spread through the venue like wildfire. Police stormed in, unleashing pepper spray to get control, but it was too late. The scene had already turned into mayhem. One moment it was a music award show, the next it was a full-blown riot. When the dust finally started to settle, Alphamega opened up about what really went down that night, and what he said shocked everybody. Turns out, the man he'd clashed with, Shawty Lo, wasn't even his real enemy. In fact, they were practically family. One of Alphamega's children's mothers was Shawty Lo's sister, meaning the whole beef had been one big misunderstanding that got out of control. He later explained that pride, ego, and pure street instinct twisted a small moment into total chaos. According to him, he thought Shawty Lo was about to throw a drink at him, so he reacted fast. He called it self-defense, not aggression. But by the time the truth came out, the damage was already done. The image that stuck in everyone's head wasn't the misunderstanding, it was that chair flying through the air. That wild, explosive scene became the picture-perfect symbol of Alphamega's time as Grand Hustle's enforcer. Powerful, fearless, and unpredictable. By the end of 2008, Alphamega was seen as untouchable. He was the guy who'd go all in for the team, no questions asked, the one who'd take on a whole crew solo if he had to. Grand Hustle had a monster on their side, and the streets respected it. His debut album, I Am Alphamega, was already lined up for early 2009. Everything was set. It looked like he was finally flipping his raw street legend into a real rap career, his second shot at the spotlight. But while Alphamega was making noise in Atlanta, something dark was quietly brewing in the background, something that not even his muscle or reputation could save him from. A journalist at the Smoking Gun had been digging through old federal case files from the Northern District of Georgia, and what they were about to uncover would shake the entire hip-hop world. On May 5th, 2009, the Smoking Gun dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves across the industry. The headline screamed, "Rap star's protege once worked as DEA informant, government witness." Inside that article was official paperwork, federal court documents from 1995. It all traced back to the case where Cedric Zellers, long before he was Alphamega, had faced a possible 110-month sentence for selling guns to an undercover federal agent. According to those records, Zellers had agreed to cooperate, sitting down for debriefings with authorities and giving information about drug activity connected to a man named Ali Bakar. The files didn't just hint at it, they proved it. Included in the evidence was the court order itself, dated July 25, 1997, signed by Judge Owen Forrester, confirming that Zeller's sentence had been officially reduced for substantial assistance. 18 months shaved clean off his federal time. That single PDF flipped his whole world upside down. The same man who had stood as Grand Hustle's street enforcer, the symbol of loyalty and silence, was now branded something he could never fully erase, a government witness. And just like that, Alphamega's empire began to crumble, piece by piece. Alphamega's sentence had dropped from 110 months to 92, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Just days later, T.I., the king of the South himself, was gearing up to report to federal prison for his infamous 2007 machine gun case, a case that started when his own bodyguard wore a wire.
T.I. was already in full image repair mode, trying to show the world he had left that street life behind. He was cleaning house, staying away from anything that looked like cooperation or even smelled like it. But then, out of nowhere, his right-hand man, the muscle of Grand Hustle, had paperwork floating all over the internet. It was a PR disaster waiting to explode. T.I. moved fast. He picked up the phone and called into Hot 107.9 Atlanta.
He saw the movement, you know what I'm saying? That's why he jumped off stage while the song was going, you know, by himself, you know. And he, you know what I'm saying, made what was out. Somebody flatlined was out.
Ready to do damage control in real time. On air, he sounded calm, but clearly blindsided. He told the city he was shocked,
said he had no idea about Alphamega's past. He made it crystal clear. In Grand Hustle, everyone was expected to be upfront about their history. No secrets, no surprises. According to T.I., Alphamega had never disclosed any of this to him or to anyone else on the team. Then came the kill shot, the moment that ended everything. T.I. told listeners straight up, he essentially deceived us by failing to fully disclose the truth about his past. That line hit like a hammer. He followed it up by saying there was no place in Grand Hustle for dishonesty or misleading behavior. And just like that, boom, the door slammed shut. He wished Alphamega well financially, but made sure everyone knew it was over. No fade out, no warning, just a cold public exile. Overnight, Alphamega was erased from the team, from the brand, from the very kingdom he had helped defend. But the fall didn't stop with business, it cut deeper. Not long after the split, reports started flying that Alphamega had been hospitalized. Nobody knew what was real and what wasn't. The rumor mill spun out of control. Some said he'd been attacked, others whispered about something darker. Eventually, Alphamega cleared it up himself. In a diss track, he revealed that he had broken both legs, and that was why he'd been laying low. Then in March 2010, he came back swinging with a record called Green Light, and this time the target was crystal clear, T.I. On the track, Alphamega rapped, "I broke both legs, so I had to fall back, regroup, reset, and then crawl back." Those bars hit like a confession and a warning all at once. It was him saying, yeah, he'd been down, but he wasn't done. Even with broken bones and a broken reputation, Alphamega wasn't quitting. The man who had once stood behind the king of the South was now coming for him. Lyrically, directly, and without hesitation, the Grand Hustle muscle had officially turned into the rebel outside the gates, and he wanted the whole world to hear him roar. Alphamega came out swinging, no filters, no hesitation. He accused T.I. of abandoning him the moment things got rough. In his eyes, he was the muscle who protected the king, the one who took hits, handled the danger, and stood in the line of fire while T.I. built an empire. In his songs and interviews, Alphamega reminded everyone of that role, claiming that when T.I. was facing his own federal gun case, he had even called him in tears. That line alone shook fans and had the streets talking. Was it truth or just revenge through rhymes? But Alphamega didn't stop at the music. He took his story to the public, especially during the now famous DJ Vlad interview, where he tried to rewrite the whole narrative. Sitting across from Vlad, calm but defiant, he broke it down in his own words. He flat out denied being a DEA informant, saying his original case had nothing to do with drugs. It was an ATF gun case. He brushed off the paperwork that linked multiple agencies together, ignoring the fact that in the federal system, DEA, ATF, and FBI often work side by side. Then came the part that made jaws drop, the most controversial defense he ever gave.
For it to really be associated with that,
Right.
that ain't in my best interest.
Right.
Well, if that's the take on it, I have no choice but to separate myself, just due to what's best for me and mine.
Alphamega looked straight into the camera and said, "I didn't snitch, I lied." According to him, he didn't personally know Ali Bakar, the man at the center of the case. He claimed the feds had fed him the info, names, addresses, cars, and he just repeated what they gave him, saying whatever it took to shave time off his sentence. In his mind, since he didn't truly know the guy, he hadn't violated street code. But the streets don't run on technicalities. That kind of logic doesn't survive in a culture built on one rule. You cooperate, you're out, period. It didn't matter how he explained it or what he called it, the label stuck. Still, years later, what once looked like the scandal that buried his rap career has started to feel like old news. Cedric Zealous, the man behind the Alphamega name, didn't vanish, he pivoted. Today, he's seen as an OG, a storyteller, and a kind of street historian. Instead of chasing hits, he's breaking down history, the good, the bad, and the dangerous. On YouTube and podcasts, you'll find him sharing real insight about life inside Techwood homes, surviving the Red Dog era, navigating prison politics, and exposing the dark corners of the music industry.
He doesn't shy away from his own chaos either. In one interview, he openly revealed that he has 24 children by over 20 different mothers, a fact that blew minds online, but showed he wasn't hiding from his truth anymore. And when he talks about the music industry now, he speaks like a man who's seen behind the curtain. He calls it evil, describing it as a machine built to drain people, feeding off ego, addiction, and exhaustion until there's nothing left. Alphamega may have lost the crown, but he gained something else, a brutal kind of wisdom that only comes from surviving the fall. Today, he doesn't chase respect through fear or fame. He earns it by telling stories nobody else is brave enough to tell. These days, Alphamega moves like a man who's seen it all, calm on the surface, but carrying the weight of every choice he ever made. The same fire that once drove him through the streets of Techwood still burns, but is different now, sharper, wiser, and aimed at truth instead of revenge. He spends most of his time speaking to the next generation, telling them the same message he once ignored. The streets don't love nobody. He's walked through that world of chaos and pride, seen loyalty twist into betrayal, and watched fame turn real men into puppets. When he speaks now, it's not about clout, it's about survival. You'll catch him online, sitting in front of a mic, breaking down how fast the game can flip on you. One wrong move, one bad choice, and your whole world can collapse before sunrise. He tells young hustlers that being feared ain't the same as being respected, and that paper fades faster than peace of mind. And even with all the controversy that still follows his name, Alphamega doesn't run from it, he owns it. He says, "My story ain't clean, but it's real." That line alone hits different because in a culture built on image,
That you was feeling like so evil. Industry, yeah. Industry is yeah. Don't give a goddamn what nobody say. They tell you something different.
his truth cuts through the noise like a blade. He talks openly about how the fame, the fast money, and the power almost destroyed him. In interviews, he breaks it down with brutal honesty, how the industry used him as a weapon, then tossed him aside the second his past caught up. They wanted the energy, not the man, he says, calling the game a trap wrapped in opportunity. But what makes his story hit hardest is the reflection, how a man who once stood beside kings ended up finding his real peace after losing everything. He admits that back then, he chased validation through violence, respect through fear, and loyalty through chaos. Now, he chases legacy through truth, not lies. Sometimes he even revisits those old grand hustle days in interviews, not with bitterness, but with clarity. He calls them lessons in disguise, moments that taught him who was real and who was just around for the spotlight. The same hands that crown you, he says, are the same ones that can drop you when the pressure hits. Even though the paperwork scandal forever changed how the streets view him, Alphamega has carved out a new lane, somewhere between redemption and raw honesty. He's not hiding behind titles or past glory anymore. He's telling his version, no matter who doesn't like it. Now in his 50s, he's still standing tall, still commanding attention when he walks into a room. But instead of intimidation, it's his presence that speaks, the calm of a man who's made peace with his chaos. From federal courtrooms to viral interviews, Alphamega has lived through every kind of rise and fall a man can face. And through it all, he's become a living reminder that redemption ain't about what people think of you. It's about what you decide to become after the fall. So when people ask him if he regrets it all, the fights, the fame, the fallout, he doesn't flinch. He says, regret? Nah, regret means I ain't learned nothing. I lived it, I paid for it, and now I teach it. That's Alphamega today. Not the enforcer, not the shadow behind a superstar, but a man who turned his scars into sermons. He's proof that even in a world built on betrayal and ego, a man can still rise again, not as a myth, but as a message. And if you listen close, you can still hear that same energy that once shook the streets of Atlanta. Only now, it ain't a war cry. It's wisdom. Alphamega says he was just a convenient casualty, a name to cut loose when the king needed to clean his image and steer clear of anything that even looked like cooperation. He believes he took the fall so someone else could stay spotless. And in his mind,
That's the truth, no matter what anyone else thinks. Even now, he still repeats the same phrase with quiet confidence. Real, recognize real. To him, those words aren't just a slogan, they're his shield. He holds on to the belief that the people who really know him, the ones who saw his grind, his loyalty, and his heart up close, understand the man behind the controversy, no matter what that paperwork says. And that's the complicated story of Alphamega, the enforcer, the artist, the survivor, the man who went from Techwood street legend to an industry outcast and somehow turned it all into a message about redemption, resilience, and self-awareness. His name might not be on the charts anymore, but his story, it still echoes in every conversation about loyalty, fame, and survival in hip-hop. Alphamega became more than a cautionary tale. He became a mirror for the game itself, how fast it builds you up, how quick it cuts you down, and how rare it is to rise again with your soul intact. If you made it this far, show some love. Like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment. What do you think about Alphamega's rise, fall, and redemption? Was he wrong or just misunderstood? Let's talk about it.